Chelsea, who are Club World Cup champions. It's been a heck of a season for them in the end under Enzo Maresca. Things definitely have gone their way, if we are counting this as an end-of-the-season tournament, which many are. We have Alexis and Mark Ogden at the stadium for us. Frank Leboeuf is joining us as well, but let me start with you, Craig, because we were not expecting that from Chelsea tonight, were we?
Well, I heard a great line from the commentator at the end of this game. It was, "This is the pinnacle of..." What was the terminology, Shaq?
Club football. This was the highest platform, was it, of club football?
Which it is not, but taking the final in isolation, this was just a... If you think about Chelsea's season, first half really good, second half patchy, got into the top 4 to make the Champions League, the top 5. This, you could argue, for 45 minutes, was their best performance of this elongated season. Paris Saint-Germain's 65th game, Chelsea's 64th game, so a long slog. And maybe that was the difference for Paris Saint-Germain in the end. They had done all the hard work. They won the French League. They won the Champions League. They've been very good in this competition. But if we're giving Chelsea some credit here, and I think we have to, that 45 minutes, if they can bottle that 45 minutes and take that into the Premier League with consistency, you know, pressing, aggression, football, getting Cole Palmer onto the ball, getting Reece James in the middle of the park to allow Enzo Fernandez to go forward. And I think the most important piece of the jigsaw, and we've seen this very, very early on, and it's always when you go to a new club, just brilliant to start your career at a new club, as brightly and with as much quality as João Pedro has. We all knew he was a good player at Brighton. We all know he's got an immense talent. But what's he going to bring to Chelsea? What's he going to bring that's going to make them different, to challenge Arsenal, to challenge Liverpool, to challenge Man City? And I think in a very small sample size in a blue jersey, we have seen what João Pedro can bring to this Chelsea squad. Quality, movement, and not just that, but a couple of times he dropped off in the first half into the middle of the park and deeper. And we talked about this. He's not just a guy that stands in the number 9 position like a bit of a statue waiting for the ball to come. He drifts around. And a couple of things he did in the first half that you may not have noticed, when he dropped off, controlled it and volleyed the ball over the top into the space for runners, I thought was absolutely brilliant, and he is going to be a tremendous signing. It
looks like he's going to be the solution. I know you've had some high praise for him already, Stevie.
Yeah, I said I was disappointed Liverpool never tried to sign him. I mean, I said happy with Verts, but I think to Craig's point, Chelsea have now set the standard for themselves, what they did particularly in the first half. And we knew they had quality, we always known that. We were talking last year about where's the leadership in this team? We were talking about how they're so young. Well, today they grew up because there was leadership all over the field. The back line held a fantastic line the whole game. The middle of the park dominated what we thought was the best midfield on the planet for PSG. And then up front, you had João Pedro to the work rate and the quality, particularly of Neto and Cole Palmer. You've got everything. We saw everything there. If they can put all that together consistently, they can beat anybody. And they can certainly win the Premier League if they produce that game after game after game. Because I don't care who was playing against them today, they would have won the game.
I also thought Maresca got things absolutely right. You talk about the ball from João Pedro over the top. I thought that was on all day long for Chelsea. And they played over the top of the PSG pressure. For as much criticism that Robert Sanchez has gotten as Chelsea goalkeeper, I thought it was simply outstanding today. And you saw his passing reach in distance. When he's passing the ball short, he does still make you a little bit nervous. But time and time again, and particularly to start the game, in that first 30, 35 minutes, what you saw, Malo Gusto pushed right up on Nuno Mendes. And Robert Sanchez just put it right on Malo Gusto every single time. And that seemed to catch PSG out surprisingly, in my opinion. Nuno Mendes, best left back in world football, but just seemed to find himself out of position, getting caught under the ball, Malo Gusto getting the better of him, and then Cole Palmer just sitting in midfield, picking up those pieces. So from a tactical perspective, again, I thought Enzo Maresca got this absolutely right in a game that I I, for one, didn't give PSG more than a puncher's chance.
All the superstars that turned up for PSG in the second half of the season looked as if it was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Ousmane Dembele hardly had a kick. Kvaratskhelia hardly had a kick. Desiree Doué really, I think, encapsulates their first half when at the back post he tries to pass it. Instead of, he's got a one-on-one, he's side-footing it into the net and he tries to pass it, Cucurella cuts it out. That midfield that Stevie talked about, it is, even after this game, the best midfield combination in Europe, but we didn't see that today. And maybe that was tiredness, and maybe it was all those games, or maybe it was just because it meant a bit more to Chelsea, and they pressed and they harassed, and they were excellent. But to Shaq's point, Nuno Mendes, you could argue, has been the best left-back second half of the season in world football, and he goes missing for 2 of the goals. So it was kind of one of those days for PSG. Listen, would they swap this performance now with a performance against Inter Milan, where they won 5-0 in the Champions League, and a competition that actually matters, no matter what FIFA will tell you and all the razzmatazz? You're looking at me. You're looking at me. You're looking at me as if I shouldn't belittle this competition. I am belittling it because of all the reasons we've talked about before. That being said, what Chelsea did, you know, and listen, if Chelsea lose the first 6 games of the season, Enzo Maresca will probably get the sack. So the Club World Cup means diddly squat in that sense. But what it does give him is an opportunity to say to his players, do you see what we did in the summer in this competition? Do you see how we combated the European champions? If we can just somehow take that after whatever rest they're getting and take that into the Premier League season, as Stevie said, if they can do that, I think we could have a 4-way battle at the top of the Premier League for a proper title race. I mean, if they can somehow take that forward. And just briefly, the other thing I liked was not just the João Pedro thing, but the ability to bring Liam Delap on as a battering ram, and I'm not being disrespectful, but as a battering ram at the end of the game, amongst other stuff, to come on when defenders are a little tired and they're a little frustrated, he came on and just ruffled a few feathers. I thought that was a great card to be able to play for Maresca.
Frank, you were obviously very excited with what you saw tonight. Are you as excited as the guys are potentially for the season ahead for Chelsea here?
I am, but there's going to be a big pressure for them because after showing us what they're capable of doing and playing against the best team in the world, according to everybody, all the legitimate people, it's a big performance, and he put the level upper than we would thought. And as the guys say, they can be contenders if they carry on playing like that. Because, you know, we're going to talk about the Paris Saint-Germain, what went wrong, but the first thing we went wrong is the club that they played against. And Chelsea were absolutely perfect everywhere. Shaka mentioned Robert Sanchez. Robert Sanchez had a hell of a game because in like 2-3 occasions he saved. Maybe if Doué would have tried to shoot instead of trying to find the ball when it was nearly, it would have been a different game. But overall, there is nothing to complain about. Malo Gusto was able to cope with Kvaratskhelia and Mendes at the same time, with the help of his teammates as well. At the back, they were strong. In the middle of the park, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo and James were above the 3 Paris Saint-Germain midfielder who are considered the best in the world. And at front, I mean, Palmer, he was flying, that guy. And we can already feel that with João Pedro, there is already something going on. So, yes, it's a green light for the next season. But let's see how it works, because that's going to be a different competition, a different time, and we know that the other contenders will be ready to fight against Chelsea.
See, Frank, we're not always negative about Chelsea, are we? You and I.
No, never. We're only negative when it's normal.
No matter what they say, and when we go to Alexis and Ogden, if he says it's hot in New Jersey, if this English guy from the Northwest says it's hot one more time, we'll cut the feed.
Yeah, one more thing, sorry, Kay, about that. We have to congratulate Maresca. The tactic that he made and he put on today was absolutely perfect to counter Paris Saint-Germain's skills. I mean, on the flanks, how they worked together, that was so nice to see it. they put the poison on Paris Saint-Germain. And the other team will have to know exactly what happened to do the same, to play against Paris Saint-Germain. It was impossible for Paris Saint-Germain to react against that Chelsea. It says a lot about their performances, so congratulations, Mr. Maresca.
Okay.
We've gone too far.
Alexis and Mark, how hot is it in New Jersey? No, I'm just kidding, guys. Obviously, we've seen some wonderful displays, Alexis, from PSG throughout the tournament, but Chelsea saved one of the biggest displays for the final today.
Yeah, okay, well, I won't let the Englishman tell you that it's hot. I'll be the Jamaican to tell you that it is actually not that hot. You can probably see from my bad hair day that it is actually a nice windy type of afternoon, but brilliant, brilliant atmosphere today. A record-breaking crowd, over 81,000 in the MetLife Stadium tonight. I would say majority probably were rooting for Chelsea. The PSG fans, of course, were subdued because I think they were a little shell-shocked, like all of us in the press area, because again, we didn't exactly cover ourselves with glory predicting that PSG were just going to run through Chelsea. But Kate actually took me back to the press conferences before this final that Augie and I were at for Chelsea, with Reece James being very bullish, saying that he doesn't care about stats, he doesn't read into stats, he doesn't care if people think Chelsea had the easier route to the final and PSG had bigger hurdles to overcome. He didn't care if they won the Champions League. He said, we're going to go out there and prepare as best as possible. And Augie, Chelsea did to PSG what PSG pretty much did to everyone this season.
Yeah, they took him by surprise. And just going back to Craig's point about the moment when Desiree Doué should have scored, that was the turning point in the game. You know, if PSG scored that chance, then they 1-0 up in the Chelsea chased the game in the heat, but they didn't take it. And Chelsea just outran and outchased and out-harried PSG, which is what you don't normally see. And I think, you know, Cole Palmer was outstanding. Every Chelsea player today really put a shift in, and I think that it was a surprise. And obviously, we all got the prediction wrong. I got the scoreline right, just the wrong team. But you know, so I'm taking 50% of credit there. But listen, Chelsea aren't the best team in the world. PSG are the best team in the world. But today, Chelsea showed, like the guy's saying, that they can compete next season if they keep the players fit, keep them together. Delap and João Pedro are a really good unit to rotate up front. I think Chelsea have got real promise. But today was a real kind of line in the sand for Chelsea. It's the point that they can now kick on from that. Maybe justify the massive investment in the squad over the last couple of years. They are now a competitor, but they have to build on this and show that it's not just a flash in the pan.
Well, on Friday, Enzo Maresca told us about how much he loves watching chess, because you have to think of it up here and then plot your next move anytime the rival makes a move against you. And you love that line as well. What did you think of his tactics?
Well, putting Reece James in the team to kind of stifle the midfield, I thought that was a big moment, because, you know, they risked being outnumbered in midfield. If it was just, you know, I thought Caicedo was excellent, but Caicedo and Fernandes on their own wouldn't have been able to cope. So, giving credit for doing that, we kind of criticised Maresca at times for the way that he has a deliberate way of playing, but he changed it up, and I think, you know, fair credit to him. He really made the tactics work. You know, PSG didn't really change anything. PSG were disappointed, and their frustration came out at the end when, you know, Jean Neves was sent off for the Cucurella incident, and then after the game we saw the fisticuffs, shall we say.
Yes, exactly. It ended on a bit of a sour note, Kay, when we saw Luis Enrique get involved there with João Pedro. But overall, a big afternoon for Chelsea.